Welcome to the Microsoft Analytic Conference 2025. We are the Hyderabad Data and AI community, along with India Microsoft Fabric user group. And we are super excited to host you all after an amazing first edition of some energetic offline events across cities. Now, we are back with our second global virtual conference. Get ready for 2 days full of tech magic with 50 plus global speakers, real world use cases, and everything you love about data, AI, and Microsoft Fabric. Let's get started. Before we begin, here is a quick reminder about the Ask the Expert contest. Please post your question along with your email and question.
Yeah, hello team. Very good morning. So as you had heard, we have a ask the expert contest. So please be active in the session. Ask some relevant questions. So maybe you may be the winner. So let's dig into it. So before we begin, I just want to say a very good morning to everyone. And it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Amit Chandak, a seasoned data leader and innovator. He is a chief analytics officer at Canrica, where he drives data strategy and business intelligence initiatives. Amit is also a Microsoft Data Platform MVP, recognized for his outstanding contributions to the data community. He is a super user on the Power BI community, helping thousands with insightful solutions and expert guidance. Beyond that, Amit shares his knowledge as a YouTuber, making data and analytics accessible to all. Please join me in welcoming Amit Chandak to lead today's session. And we also have Zoe Douglas, Microsoft Principal Product Manager. A warm welcome to you, Zoe. Yeah, I would like to hand over it to Amit so he can start the session.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I think good to see so many people at a very early morning in India. And I would like to welcome Zoe. Zoe, in case you can share your video, that would be great. So, welcome to the very first session. And the very first session, I'm Amit Chandak, as you heard, our data platform MVP and Microsoft Fabric Community Super User and Chief Analytics Officer at Canerica. I'm sharing my profile and Zoe's profile into the chat window so that you can connect with us and keep on asking more questions. So I'll let Zoe introduce her.
Sure. Good morning. Hello, everybody. So my name is Zoe Douglas. I'm excited to be here with Amit and everyone here to talk about some of the newest developments we have in Power BI that I've been working on. And so I work on mostly on Power BI semantic models. Thank you, Amit.
Okay. So, friends, you are aware that, we got Microsoft Fabric public preview release in May 2023, and we are talking about this platform for last couple of years. And as you might be aware that it's a unified platform, data analytics platform, which empowers, not only business users, but citizen developers and technical person. And it's end to end because anything you want to do from data preparation to data transformation to real-time analytics to big data analytics or data science, whatever you need, it's they're part of the one single platform. And the good thing is that, very recently we have added that we also added SQL database, which we are going to discuss a little later. What's that? In today's scenario in data analytics, if you want to go and want to choose what all you can do for your data analytics, let's say you have a big data analytics project and you want to choose for a technology or set of technology for that, you have these 1,000+ technologies which are displayed on my screen, hopefully visible to all of you, to choose from. And maybe you need a project to choose that. And one of the things I keep on repeating what Arun says in his meetings, one who leads the entire Fabric development. So people ask us, or the CTO asks us, are we chief selection officer or are we chief technology officer? There are so many choices you have just to kick off your data analytics project. And in that data analytics project, you need a project to select the technologies. So Microsoft Fabric is going to address all these stuff by bringing in, best of the technology from Microsoft Azure world to give you this unified environment where you are getting data factory, which include data pipeline, data flow gen 2, which include copy job. Then we have data engineering where we have lake houses, notebooks, your Spark engineering, which you can do. We have SQL databases, which is basically OLTP databases. We have data science, which again include your Spark notebooks, your experiments, etc. Data warehousing, the typical data warehousing where you can create the warehouse, which is T-SQL based warehousing. Real-time analytics, you might have heard about Kusto database. It is known as Event House here, and we can do real-time data engineering, real-time data alerting. We can capture real events. And your favorite Power BI tool here, which is the key component of Microsoft Fabric along with data activators. So what Microsoft has done here is basically they have integrated all these tools and technology together and bring in this environment. But before I go into the little more into the definition, I have a question from Zoe because she's here. Zoe, are you trying to give us a kit or it's something more than that?
Yeah, so I think one of the key drivers here, if you pick from that slide before, like a few of those products to work and you want to pick and choose, then you have a new problem of how do you move data between these different products. And so that's one of the things that Fabric really tried to answer by having this uniform OneLake. So all of these workloads can write to the OneLake and they can all read from that OneLake. And so that allows this kind of seamless, you can utilize different kind of tools, but now you can actually utilize it on the exact same data across the entire stack. So no longer you have any data silos, and then also no longer do you have to like really figure out how am I going to move the data? How am I going to access it? So it really simplifies that from, we've actually made it a lot, a lot of options, but in reality, we've simplified it a lot in that we can now go ahead and just get that data where it's at and utilize it with the best workload that we have to get the job done.
Yeah, so I think there's a ground of work which has been done to bring in Microsoft Fabric. And I think as Zoe has highlighted OneLake, I think there are three things which I keep on talking whenever we talk about Microsoft Fabric. Other than the unified experience and unified architecture, what we do is one is definitely OneLake is for everything, and it is one for your tenant. And then you have the workspace level, regional aspect covered. Means if you need some data to stay at a region, they are covered at part of your workspaces. Then comes the, we have, one compute which can, run all these workload. While, in a bigger organization, there are scenarios where you will need multiple workloads, and you can have those workload based on your, you can have those compute units based on your workspaces, and you can have different workspaces working on different computes, and you can design your entire workspace architecture based on that how you want to work. And or if you want to have some regional based separation, you can also do that. So that allows you, the one single compute can run all these workloads. And, Microsoft has designed this entire billing inside the consumption of CU as, whether you are running the Spark engine or whether you are running databases or whether you are doing data flow Gen 2 or data pipelines, everything is using the same compute. Practically possible to use only one, and practically also possible to use more than one in required scenarios. Even Power BI uses the same compute. Now comes one very good thing, which is basically Joey also talked about. We have this for all the structured data. We are using one single format, the data format. And because of that single format, what happens is any engine which is writing down the data as a structured format, the other engine don't need to, copy that data because that engine does not understand the technology. Think about a scenario in the previously, we used to create this entire data warehouse on SQL technology, let's say on Azure SQL, or maybe we created on Cosmos DB or Azure Synapse. But what happens when we come to Power BI? We used to say Power BI works best on import mode. So we are going to import this entire gold layer of data, the data which is ready for the consumption, into the Power BI. Same way, if the data is there in the lake house, if it is not in a data format, we need to again convert it into data format or table format in our SQL databases to get the best performance out of that tool. But that's not a limitation here. Everything here in the table format is data, and all those technology understand that format. So Power BI can read from there. Warehouse can read from data format. Lakehouse can read from data format. Data flow Gen 2, data pipelines, all can write down into that format. T-SQL can write down in warehouses in that format. And definitely we have PySpark engines, to serve you to write it down on the lake houses. So we have, all these technology aligned to the single unified architecture, unified experience. When you look into the Microsoft Fabric, you will never find all these UIs are different. You will not think that, okay, this is taken from this world and this is taken from other world, and where do I find the options? Every time you will click on a UI, you will know that, okay, I will find settings here. I'll find, manage user here. I'll find, these things at these places. Okay, so that is what the benefit. And with Purview and work governance from workspace security to the item level security, you have this unified governance and security framework, which you will also experience. And then I think this is not the we will not talk about the business model, how Fabric works, but yes, definitely we can take up some questions regarding the cost part of it. And then one of the latest addition which happened in the month of November 2024, and which is very really hot right now. The we are seeing a lot of use cases coming on that is SQL database. What is the SQL database? It's basically an Azure SQL database engine specifically designed and integration in Microsoft Fabric and serves as online transaction processing. So means it is for OLTP. But I have a question here with Zoe. Zoe, we are doing this entire Microsoft Fabric for OLAP. What are OLTP engine doing here?
Say that one more time. I'm so sorry. Oh, so why is this NG? So this really is amazing because once we bring in this SQL database, right? So we're bringing it natively into Fabric, which is so when typically when you stood up a SQL database, it was writing into its own storage layer again, and you had to go access it. And now we have it directly in Fabric, and so it's going to be writing that data to the OneLake, which is really kind of an amazing kind of shift when you think about it for databases now to be kind of really accessible to the other workloads more than ever before. And again, under that same compute and also under Purview, right? So having that unified governance, really kind of consolidating the data estate into something that really kind of enables all those workloads wherever you're at for every persona, right? So if you have more developer personas, you have more BI personas, you have more business users, right? And then also on top of that, we also have, it enables it to be utilized, in the data agents and the AI and, chatting with your data. All of those scenarios are now extremely easy, just a few clicks away, especially now we've brought in, our full SQL database engine right into Fabric natively.
Yeah, so that's great. So we can say in Microsoft Fabric, OLAP, OLTP also coming together. And one of the most important thing, what happens when you write down the SQL database, which is basically OLTP. So you cannot have write down directly into the data, which is basically read optimized. And so what happens is it's still write down natively into the SQL database format, which gives it the the large scale performance for your OLTP transaction. Means you can create your web app, you can use it as a backend for your Power App, and you can keep any kind of transactional application. But it immediately replicates that data into the Delta format, so you can do data analytics along with all your other lakehouses and warehouses. So it's a seamless integration which happened, and you don't have to worried about, okay, if I create an app, a AI app, how I am going to integrate that data, or how I'm going to do near real-time analytics or real-time analytics on that data which I'm creating. So this is your near real-time and real-time data analytics which is going to happen on all your new app which you are going to develop on Microsoft Fabric SQL DB. So that is one of the very big use case, and you keep on exploring. And if you have some really good use case which you come across, do let me and Zoe know that, okay, you are working on SQL database and this is the use case which you have. Okay. Yeah, I see some good comment coming from Bharat. Thanks for that, Bharat. Okay, so with that, I'll move to the next section. Microsoft Fabric is an evolving environment, and every 1 month you see tons of updates coming in. And these are some of the most awaited updates which came very recently. I'm just going to take name of few of those. And what Joey has done, she has put across some of the new features which has came very recently, or some of them are part of the preview right now. She's going to demonstrate some of those and going to show to us. So I'm just going to tell the most awaited feature of OneLake security, securing this entire ecosystem just by configuring the roles at one single place, and it gets secure at your lake houses, your SQL endpoints, your Power BI report, your AI, everywhere. One place is OneLake security. So this feature article is there, and you have to apply for that. Right now it's under the preview, so you have to apply for that and you can get it. Then migration assistant for data warehousing, we have agent, we have AI Foundry, enhancements. We even have something known as now you can use PySpark for read and write on the warehouse. The feature was released in last couple of months and has been enhanced. Then we have AI productivity tool for Microsoft Fabric. Copilot is now available for all SKUs. So now you don't need to have F64 SKU just to run your Copilot. Even if you have F2 capacity, you will be able to run. But yes, definitely you can't run it on the trial capacities. You need to have a paid capacity to run that. Copy job is generally available. We have warehouse ALM and defect integration, and Terraform scripts are enabled now. Write optimization for Spark configuration, SQL database Fabric. We've supported audit logs. GA happened for the Terraform script, which I discussed, VNet gateway support for data pipelines, and Fabric also have a command line interface. There are many more. I think there are more than 50 articles which got released just on 28th and 29th March timeframe when the Microsoft Fabric conferences happened. After that, I think in last 1 month, we have another good set of releases, and some of the features which were, which could discuss there during the Microsoft Fabric community conference are also got released and made available. So with that, I will now give I will ask Zoe to showcase you some of these new features, and we are looking forward to Zoe's presentation.
I shared my screen and lost the video. But anyway, lost the Teams, but I found it again, so we're good. So thank you, Amit. No, that's a great summary of all of the kind of recent things we did. We had a ton of announcements at FabCon in general, actually, including one of the ones that I'm also excited about that's not involved, but it's kind of, it's totally related to Power BI, but is the materialized views in kind of the SQL Analytics endpoints too. I think that one is coming soon, and it's one of the ones that I'm actually most excited about because that is one of the things that comes up a lot when people talk about Direct Lake. But so as Amit said, Microsoft has the unified data platform, right? And so we have all of these things work together, built on the Fabric platform with the AI available not only in individual workloads to help you get your job done there, but then also when you're wanting to kind of chat with your data and have these data agents available to your consumers. And all the data lives in the OneLake, and we have the unified governance with Purview. So let's take a quick look at Power BI, right? So Power BI, I work on the product group for Power BI. And so in Power BI, we have semantic models, and these are taking that data and then adding in that additional information to really make it shine when you want to have exploration and visualization capabilities, right? So this semantic modeling piece sometimes got a little bit hidden in the marketing, but we are wanting to come back and say, hey, this is the amazing BI engine that we have here. It's been around longer than Power BI, and it is going strong. And this is what you can do to your data to make it really shine in these scenarios, especially with AI as well. So when we talk about the analytics journey, right? So and this is what Fabric really enables, is this analytic journey end to end, right? And so you have the data coming in, you're connecting to the data, you have your OneLake, including, and in Power BI, you can still also use data outside of OneLake, right? So you can still, if you're an Excel file that has just some data, you can still bring that in. CSV, all the Power Query connectors are still available to you. You're going to prepare that data, right? So for Direct Lake, you're going to do that preparation in the Lakehouse warehouse, and in import models, you're going to do that in Power Query. Right. And then in the middle there is the semantic model. And that's when you're going to go and define those relations to a table, add some calculations using DAX language to really make this data shine, and then visualization, and then sharing of insights, right? So once you have these reports, so the data is not just collected for fun. The data is collected to get insights and to make your business run faster, run better, to make sure you're making the right steps, to make sure that you are profitable and doing well, right? So one of the things that we just released specifically for Power BI is we have Direct Lake that was released with Fabric, but you had to create them in the Fabric workspace. And now we're allowing you to also create them right in Power BI Desktop. So this was just released at FabCon. So now I can go to a Lakehouse from the OneLake catalog in Desktop. And when you turn on the preview switch, you'll have this option to now connect to OneLake as well as connect to SQL endpoint. So connect to SQL endpoint will do import and direct query solutions off the SQL Analytics endpoint. But the connect to OneLake will actually allow you to create Direct Lake semantic models right here in Power BI Desktop. So no longer you have to go to a Lakehouse or warehouse and figure out how to do it. You can do it right where you're already working in Power BI Desktop. And this is actually really interesting scenario also, not for just those who are making large models, but for smaller models, because this is really answering the question of, I wanted some near real-time data. I didn't really want to import the data. I didn't want to make a copy of the data. I can actually just use the data where it's at, even for just a smaller report that I want to mash up data. And then not only can you create them in Power BI Desktop, this is a new kind of version of Direct Lake without fallback. And so this is going to go to the Lakehouse directly. And so not only do you get to kind of create them in Desktop, But now we also enable you to add multiple sources from the OneLake. So I can return to that OneLake catalog and pick a different lake house or a different warehouse. And we're going to enable more and more Fabric artifacts as we go along. We wanted to get this out to you as soon as possible. Now I've gone to a different lake house. I'm going to pick a table from this one. So previously with the direct lake on SQL endpoints, you had to go and consolidate all your tables to a single lake house, kind of making these kind of lake houses just for the semantic model. Now we can actually do that again in the semantic model, just like we're used to doing with import models or direct query models. So now I can come in here and I can add in I can start doing semantic modeling here. So I'm going to rename my tables. I want to make them to be nice names for when they're used in reports, for when people are exploring the data, and for when people are chatting with the data with Copilot, right? So all these these seem like a small detail, but having these renames here, being able to give them descriptions, being able to give them the right formatting, right data category, and I'm sure you've seen this, Amit, with helping all these customers. These things really matter, right? So these things really help, take it to the next level.
Yeah, and I think I'm really excited about fun thing is, create directly models on Power BI desktop. We are so much, used to do the things on Power BI desktop that doing creating a direct lake model in Power BI desktop is really good thing. And second, that we are able to take data from multiple lake houses and warehouses together. Yep. This again, the theory of, one copy of data is again, getting, validated here that, okay, you don't need to worry and you don't need to put everything together. You can,
Exactly.
put it in a different lake houses or warehouses. And it does allow me, to different teams to use different technology. Like, some people prefer Spark. They can still do their job in Spark. Some people prefer T-SQL. They can still do their job in T-SQL, depending on the size of the data. The technology,
Exactly.
For the small data, maybe T-SQL does much better job, or maybe Dataflow Gen 2 does much better job. So I can have that choice of technology, putting it at different places. And then I'm going to create a consolidated data here. So really excited about this update. And I'm really sure that all of those who are attending here is going to go and try that out. We do have a question here, and I'm just going to read out. Maybe we'll answer this question a little later. And the question is that, we have this A3, Amazon A3 bucket in US, okay? And we wanted to access the data using the SQL endpoint or the data lake in India. So the data is in USA. I know we can create a shortcut and can get the data, but the shortcut become created in India may not get answer if the data is being limited to have a global access. That could be the reason. So you want to add something on that?
Yeah, so there are special considerations when you're doing cross-region. I would go and check the document. So the known issues have a couple gotchas with the cross-region, like shortcuts and with direct lake specifically. And then, so check there. And then I'm not up to speed on the very latest with those developments, but there are some special considerations you need to be aware of when you're doing kind of cross-region. We are trying to make it as seamless as possible. The last I remember I was looking at it with one of the ones, and one way to get around it is if you do create a lake house in the region you want to create the semantic model, and then shortcut to that lake and make sure this lake house you want to connect to the direct lake is in the same region, but you can shortcut from the other region's lake house into that one. So that's definitely check out. There are some considerations when you're doing cross region, and we're always trying to make that as seamless as possible. So always double check with the documentation. We try to keep that updated as soon as possible. Right, so now I've created this model, I've added multiple sources in desktop, and from desktop, and I went through, you can actually go into the name and you can go back to the model in the service. So you can always find it, right? So when you create these models in desktop, they're not locally on your machine, right? Because it's still direct lake, it's going to be created in the Fabric workspace. You got to pick that Fabric workspace when you gave it a name and you pick the tables initially. Now, one of the cool things about Fabric is these other workloads are not just isolated. They all work together to get the job done. And one of the really cool ones that work well with semantic models is Fabric Notebooks. So Fabric Notebooks has a SymPy Python package that will talk to a semantic model, and the Semantic Link Labs that Michael Kowalski, this is that top here, you see the Semantic Link Labs. I've installed that, and now I can actually make changes to that semantic model. So I have it running in my desktop. I've always accessed it in web modeling in the web, but I can also now access it in a notebook. And this notebook is pretty cool. So I have this script, and I have this on my GitHub too, just to give you kind of example of what you can do with Semantic Link Lab. Is I've actually created this Python, Copilot help me, and we have, and honestly, Michael Kvapke has amazing snippets available up on the Semantic Link Labs. I've added my relationships. I've added measures with descriptions, with the expression, with even dynamic format strings for measures, right? Everything you can do in the semantic model, you can actually do here because it's accessing those TOM libraries, which is how you can programmatically create semantic models even in C or whatever language you want to do. I've added a field parameter. I've added calculation groups. This is I've updated columns. I've added in my calculation items, I've given them formats, and I've even added a hierarchy, right? Now, I have this all scripted. I can do this in 25 seconds, right? So I do this a lot. I demo a lot of semantic model features, and I can do this not only in direct lake, import, direct query, whatever one I want to do, I can go ahead and do that here. And so now I can open up that semantic model again here in the web, and I can see those changes that I've made. Now it's a fully fleshed out semantic model. I have everything in here. You can come always to the Model Explorer in desktop or the web, and you can see these kind of things. Okay, there's my measures. There's my calculation group, my calculation items, right? And these are available on kind of all semantic models. Now at the top we added in this view mode. So when you land in web modeling, you're no longer editing by default. So it's a little bit less scary. But we also added a way to get back to desktop, right? So now you can, on the direct lake semantic models only, you can now come from the web modeling and you can actually open it in desktop. So we made it really easy to kind of utilize the existing tooling that we have. And again, you can see the exact same things you saw in the web with the Model Explorer and make changes here. And those changes will automatically be applied to the model in the service. And so also you have DAX Query. You have DAX Query in the web. You have to go, we're going to bringing in a view switcher at the bottom. So that's coming. And then in desktop, you have it in that left nav there. And now you can come in and you can also use Copilot, right? So I can use Copilot to kind of not only answer data questions, but also kind of let me play with measures, right? So this is a really good one to say, okay, show me my measures, right? I could have written this DAX query, but it would take me time, right? I can have Copilot quickly say, show me all the measures in my model, show it by year, right? And I can see the output. So if I'm trying to debug or I'm trying to just validate that this model, the semantic model after a refresh has run well, has going to return the data that I expect, I can validate it here without creating a report page and then not forgetting to take out that report page when I publish it later, right? So it really helps kind of this debug. And then I have Copilot here to help me create these DAX queries. And DAX queries also have the ability to modify kind of measures. So you can define a measure in the DAX query context, and you can play around with it, and then you can get it ready and you can test it and then save it back to the model when you're ready. And we also brought in Tyndall View for Direct Lake semantic models. So Tyndall View was released, but you couldn't use it with Direct Lake. Now you can. That was just announced at FabCon. So now you can see the whole model. You can see everything that's going on in that model, and I'll show you a tip later for converting Direct Lake on SQL to Direct Lake on OneLake by using Tyndall View actually. So now what happens now? We don't have a report view, right? So now I've created a beautiful semantic model. I want to create a report, right? So I went a little fast, but you can just go to File, New, Blank Report, and open a new instance of Power BI Desktop. So even though you don't have the report view when you're live editing the semantic model, you can always just create one and live connect. So now this one I've already created previously on a smaller import model. Now I'm going to change it to point to that model I just created in desktop a few minutes ago that has 1 billion rows in it, not just 100, just not 1 million, it has 1 billion. And this has like the field parameters, so the dynamic behavior we see in Power BI reports, right? So I can build this line chart here not only to work for orders, but now I can use it with the field parameter, and I have my calculation group at the bottom giving all the statistics for each measure. So now my report consumer can come in and just say, oh, I want to see orders, I want to see sales, I want to see costs. So really kind of going into that Power BI strengths. And then this one is a PBX, so I can just publish it whenever I'm ready. I can save it locally. It doesn't have the model is up in the service. And so now when we look at what does the consumer see? So now I've published this report. I'm now consuming this report. Now I can see, okay, cool, I can just change costs. I can change to profit. And if I wanted to add additional measure later, I just add it in there, and now all my visuals will be ready for it, right? So it's really helping create these reports in a way that is able to be built upon in the future, and also kind of minimizes the maintenance you have to do as the business needs change, right? And then we have hierarchies here. So I have my hierarchy in my visual. So if I go down to a specific year, then I can bring it down to kind of a single month. And then here, this is a feature that's been out for a long time. I really like this feature, so I always demo it, is the personalized visual. So this one really takes the consumer to the next level. So as a consumer, I can come in here and say, you know what, I want to see this line chart. I want to see a different measure. I want to see it broken down by product, right? So I can come and make these changes. I'm empowered to make these changes without having to actually create my own report. I can do it here, and I'm not impacting that report. I'm just doing it for me. I can save it as a personal bookmark and come to it back to it later. So maybe I need to get it ready for a meeting. I really need it. My boss does not like the other chart. It needs this chart. This really kind of enables them in a really great way. And this works on all semantic models, including DirectLake, right? So you're not limited by this just because you're using one or the other. And then, of course, the exploration feature, which was launched right at the same time as DAX Query View, where now you can have this pivot table experience right in Power BI. You can just drag drop. So as a consumer, I can come and just quickly see what's going on. Does this have the data I'm looking for? That's the other one cool thing, that OneLake catalog is now available on the left nav, and it shows you all your tables and columns and descriptions before you even get to like actually creating a report or looking at exploration, which is really helpful. And then search now looks kind of deeper in the model than just the name. Right, so really making it easier to kind of utilize these assets. One of my favorite things about that OneLake catalog is actually it shows me everything outside of the workspaces. So I can see everything. So I can see all my notebooks across all my workspaces, which is amazing because I always forget which one I saved it in. So here, this is kind of the old details page, which did have that table view, but now I didn't show a demo in this demo, but if you go to that kind of on the left nav, there's that OneLake catalog there. I don't know if you can see my cursor. I don't think you can. Let me see if I can do a laser pointer. And so right here, it's this OneLake catalog here on the left is actually really cool, and that should be available now. All right, so the DirectLake and desktop demo went through kind of the practical end-to-end scenario of utilizing DirectLake, utilizing desktop, utilizing web modeling, utilizing all the tools that we have available to you to really make those semantic model shines. Now this is DirectLake on OneLake, and I just kind of want to reiterate this one. So the one we had before is DirectLake on SQL. That's the one you create in Lakehouse and SQL endpoint. It has this seamless, basically it's DirectLake with, because it's off the SQL endpoint, if it can't get to the tables via DirectLake, it's going to utilize, we talk SQL through direct query. So it's going to try and get those data for that visual any way it can. You have the DirectLake behavior to control it, but we're still held to anything that happens on that SQL endpoint. It does allow you to use views, but those views will always be talking direct query, not DirectLake. So that's why those materialized views I talked about are really exciting for DirectLake. Now, so DirectLake on SQL also doesn't allow multi-source. So it's only a single SQL endpoint that you can build them off of. Whereas DirectLake on OneLake, you can utilize multiple Fabric sources. And we're going to bring in all of the different sources here soon. Now,
Zoe, we are getting a lot of questions. We are going to take at the end.
Okay.
But before you move forward, because there's a lot of content. So I think anybody having question on this content can ask us. And also because, and I think one of the things which you showed, and I really liked it, you showed me Semantic Lab library from where you created the measures. And you know, this one of the biggest challenge with us is, even though we have deployment pipeline, think about an organization which has thousands of major definitions. And how do we make sure that all these definitions are, you know, what we have? So we have SAMPI library from where we can get all the major definition. We have the SAMPI library which can help us to, you know, put the major, and using the two, we can create a repository where we can validate is the major definition same across or not. So we can put a process inside the organization. Okay, when I calling it, let's say total orders, it is the same total order definition across in all the semantic model across the entire organization. So these kind of things, now are available. And then we can force, once you create a semantic model, I can say, okay, these measures, I need 20, 30 measures. And that is where we can create some intuitive, Python notebooks, or, having the metadata repository in Lakehouse, where we say, okay, I need these 10 measures. It is already available in one of my definition repository, and then just create those. So that opens the entire new world of, automating all those definition, putting auditing around it. And we are going to have one more interesting session on that from Sam, again from Microsoft tomorrow, where she's going to discuss about more details on Semantic Link Library. This is a very quick session on all the features, so we cannot cover that into the depth. Zoe has already shown you the power, and let's explore that detail in tomorrow. But Zoe, continue. This is great. I think some of those things are, really exciting me. How we are solving the user problems with Microsoft Fabric, and we are touching every aspect, like, how can we automate, how can we reduce the amount of coding we are supposed to do.
Exactly. And so I want to also reiterate on the direct link on OneLake and the direct link on SQL endpoint, right? So you have, it really depends on where you're coming from, right? So the direct link on OneLake comes from the OneLake, the artifact that owns the data in the OneLake, the artifact that wrote the data to the OneLake really owns that data, right? So that's what direct link on OneLake means. Are you like, it's all OneLake, Zoe? You said it was all OneLake. Why are you calling it direct link on OneLake? The direct link on SQL really has to go through that SQL endpoint. That's why we say direct link on SQL. Now, this gives you not only direct link available, but also import and direct query. So all of these will all stay, right? So we're not taking anything away, but the only thing you have to consider when choosing between the modes is you do have to follow the permission model of the artifact you are connecting to. And so that's where that OneLake security comes in. And it's really important for if you want to utilize shortcut tables from a lakehouse, you will need to be in that early access OneLake security. And hopefully we'll be public previewing that very soon, which will make that a lot easier. And now, even though you're setting up the OneLake security at the lakehouse level, right? So say you've done it there, you're like, can I no longer do row level security in Power BI? Absolutely not. So you can absolutely do row level security anywhere you want. Right, so you can still use row level. So you can do row level security at the lakehouse level. You can even do additional row level security at the semantic model level. And you just want to make sure you're using that fixed identity, right? So I won't go too deep into that because I have a lot of other content to cover, but I wanted to just quickly bring that up, right? And so you'll see this in the lineage view. Again, the SQL endpoint, direct link on SQL, direct link on OneLake is right off that lakehouse. All right, so I'm going to, you're probably like, Zoe, so now I've created my direct link on SQL. Now I have to recreate everything on my direct link on OneLake. So that's not true. You can actually just quickly change out the connection string, and it'll change it just like you would, like say if you had a table in Excel and then you had to go change it you put the data in SQL, you can just change the connection and it will point to the right thing. Two considerations to keep in mind. So you can do this in Timdal. It's quite seamless. In Timdal, I'll just show you here. In Timdal, just keep in mind shortcut tables and also keep in mind views, right? So views aren't accessible directly on OneLake. So here I'm just showing you, I have that direct link behavior, which is only available for direct link on SQL. I can run DAX query. I can see I'm getting data back. Now I've found that connection string for direct link on OneLake, direct link on SQL here. And I've actually changed it to the format. It's the exact same artifact, same lakehouse, same data. I'm just now going through direct link on OneLake, and I'm going to show you where in the lakehouse you can find that URL you need to put in there. And so I have these kind of parsets. I have them in the docs. I have them in this presentation. Amit will share exactly what the structure is, but you want to go and find this URL, and that's the one you're going to use for direct link on OneLake. Now, what's cool about this is you can use version history to say, before you start this process, you can duplicate it using notebooks. You can go make a version history. You can do it. You can even convert it back to direct link on SQL if it didn't do exactly what you want. But basically, I've changed that connection string, and now I've applied it. Now, the other thing as a gotcha here, which I don't think I show in this one, is in a SQL Analytics endpoint, there are schemas on tables. In a lakehouse, you will not have a schema, so you just want to make sure you take out that schema name property if you're converting from direct link on SQL to direct link on OneLake. But now we can see I've converted it. So the actual conversion, if it's pretty straightforward, it takes it's like one lane change. apply, done, right? And then you can do a refresh and model, make sure it's all happy, make sure the connections are good, right? So it's actually very, and then I'm working with Michael Kowalski to bring in kind of a way to do this in the notebooks as well. So that way, if you wanted to keep it at the same source, just change kind of which direct link you're using, we can make that fairly easy. Again, this is the connection string. So when you're doing the direct link on SQL, you'll use this SQL.database. When you're using direct link on OneLake, you use this Azure Storage.data lake, and I kind of explain kind of what all these IDs are for when you want to go ahead and change it. So it's just something to keep in mind. It is actually quite easy to switch between. We will bring in some more UI treatment around it to make it a little bit easier, but I wanted to let you know you can do it now if you wanted to. So I just want to, this is a kind of a summary, right? So what we released is we can do direct link on OneLake create in Power BI Desktop. You cannot create direct link on SQL in Power BI Desktop directly. You can, if you did the direct link on OneLake, then you convert it back to SQL. If you really wanted to do that route, you can. And then editing is available for direct link on SQL and direct link on OneLake in Power BI Desktop, right? Fully supported in Power BI Desktop. Now only in the web. So in the web, you can create direct link on SQL. You cannot create direct link on OneLake just yet. We are bringing that in as soon as possible, right? So this is kind of an iterative process. We eventually will get it so you can create them wherever, you can edit them wherever. It's all kind of very similar. You can move between them. But we wanted to make sure you have access to these as soon as possible. So as we bring them out, we're going to bring them out incrementally, right? So just letting you know some of the things to just keep in mind now, but note that these things will all get a lot easier as we go in the next few months. And then we have, of course, import and direct query is still available to you, right? So that's if you connect to SQL endpoint in Power BI Desktop, right? So if you use this connect to SQL endpoint, you will be able to do import and direct query just like you could before. All right, so really quick, slow stuff that I went through real quickly. So most of it's in public preview. The OneLake security is in private preview, early access. Of course, the personalized visuals is the one in GA. Right, it's been out for a long time. I absolutely adore that feature. Okay, so what about import models? What about import models in web modeling, right? So we're also bringing in we're also going to be able to create import semantic models in the web, right? So not just the single SQL, CSV or Excel like we have now, but like the full Power Query Online experience, right? So any connector that Power Query Online supports. And you can go back, and once you've created, now you can go to web modeling and hit transform data, and now you can go edit that thing. Like, this is really amazing. So here, really open it up for those Mac users as well, because now we can come in here, and I've just gone ahead and connected to the data as an import model. I can, of course, use Copilot to come and help me create a report, just like it can in desktop or in the web. You can create a report, and then it'll go ahead and create that here. So this is where we talk about, I think, Copilot and AI, right? This is Copilot helping you complete a task in one of the workloads versus the other side, on the consumer side, where you have Copilot and kind of AI helping you kind of chat with the data, helping you kind of navigate the system, right? So now here I have my sales amount by city, but unfortunately, many states in the US at least, and I'm not sure if it's the same in India, but they have the same name. So different states will have the exact same name city. So I'm not sure the sales amount is entirely correct because I'm only using the city name and not the state, right? So this is something that until we have Power Query support, this is actually, in an import model, you could create maybe a calculated column, but now you're increasing the size of the model. In a direct query model, of course, now you don't even have calculated columns. So now what do? You got to go back to the lakehouse, got to go back to the warehouse, got to go ask the data engineer. Maybe you don't own that data. You say, hey, I really need this. And they say, yeah, I'll get back to you in a couple weeks. But you really just want it now, right? And you could do a hierarchy there as well, but it would be kind of a little bit different, not exactly what you wanted, because then it would show up by state and then city. So now I can actually just go back into web modeling here, and because this is my import model, I have now transform data. I will have soon have transform data available to me. I also have DAX query view, right? So this is that view switcher for DAX query view. So now instead of having to go back to the workspace, open up DAX query view, I can now just utilize it just like I could kind of in desktop, it's right there available to me while I'm modeling. So now I can come in here and say, well, how big of a problem is this? How many cities and state combinations do I have? So I've asked Copilot to come, I've asked DAX Queries Copilot to come and say, okay, show me how many combinations do I have? Like what is the combination of cities and states? And now I see there's a lot, right? So I've come in here and I'm like, oh, okay, there are 469 rows here. I can't really scroll down and see this. So I can actually come in and ask Copilot now to kind of give me a count, right? So instead of, I can just say, let's focus on just the repeat ones. Don't show me ones that are not repeating, right? And so this is really kind of demonstrating how you can utilize Copilot as you're working with this semantic model to kind of say, okay, well, is this a problem? How big of a problem is it? And I can run this again. And here I'm going to flip over to the third result. And I can see there's a lot of cities that are duplicated, which means like, so Berlin in the US is in 5 different states. I'm pretty sure. And this is just this little data set that I have here, right? So and Columbus is in many, many states, but only 2 of them are utilized from this company, right? So if I look at Columbus specifically, I want to see kind of, well, how many states is Columbus in? And I can come in, have Copilot generate that DAX query so I can get it familiar. And I can see that Georgia and Ohio, which are US states, have that city. So now, okay, so I realize this is a problem. I've checked it. And now I can go ahead and add that into my Power Query here. So just like I could in desktop or in Excel, wherever we have Power Query, I can come in, I can add that column, which will concatenate the city and the state. And we have this right here. So it was funny, I was chatting with my colleague and she was saying, oh, she couldn't figure out the syntax for how you do it in a calculated column versus in a Power Query, and it is the exact same syntax. So that was kind of funny. But it's always better to do these kind of at the Power Query layer instead of at the calculated column, especially if you have large tables. If you have a small table, then it's not a big deal. But especially for a fact table, this one's not a fact table. But for a fact table, you want to do that kind of closest to source as you can. So now I can come back into my report here and I can change out that field. So instead of city, I can now utilize that city state and I can really zone in on kind of which city specifically, including with state. And you can see these numbers are this chart is now very different and answering the question correctly. All right, so this is coming soon to web modeling, being able to utilize Power Query online, be able to create the models in the web and be able to edit them fully in the web. And it's going to be only import. Direct query is not slated to be supported just yet. Okay, I think I went through this one. Yep, okay. And then, so just a really kind of rundown of what was shown in that demo, right? The data connectors for Excel. So we already have Excel and CSV are supported in the web, but we want to bring in the full Power Query support for import semantic models. That's a sneak peek that's coming soon. Obviously, creating reports is generally available. DAX Query View Switcher is also a sneak peek. It's coming soon. As soon as we can get it out, we'll get it out to you. Editing the semantic models in the services public preview, and so is the version history. I don't think so the version history, I think I must have skipped that part. So let me try this guy. Let's see. I must be further in. So the version history is really, really cool. So I want to just touch on the version history real quick. Is the way it works is every time you load in and live editing in desktop or editing and live editing in the web, it will create a version history at the beginning of that session. So if you made a mistake, you can always go back to that version history. You can go back to where you started from. And then during the session, you can go ahead and create kind of your own kind of breakpoints, right? So you can go in and create your own snapshot, your version history, and it includes the data as well. So you don't have to restore it and wait, then do a refresh. It will restore with data. So it's very, very cool. It works with Direct Lake, works with import. It's very powerful. You can only do 5, and they're bringing in more features onto the version history. For right now, it just shows kind of the date, and you can give it a description when you create it. All right, another cool thing that was announced at FabCon in web modeling is now you have quick ways to create notebooks that will analyze your semantic model, right? So we have the best practice analyzer and memory analyzer available to you, and they're very easy. You just simply go into, when you're in web modeling, there's a button on the ribbon. It's going to create the semantic model. It's going to install all the things you need. It's going to have some information about best practice analyzer. You can click on those links. You can go see what's happening. And now you can go through. Now, the goal with best practice analyzer is not to have nothing here, right? There is kind of red X ones you want to very much pay attention to. But some things you're like, okay, yeah, I meant to do that, and that's okay. And then for memory analyzer, now you can go in and you're like, oh my gosh, why is this model so big? What is happening? Now you can get down to kind of the table, the column level, and you can do this in like external tools right now, right? You have the VertiPack analyzer in Excel. You have all of these information, but you also have this really cool one in the web, which is the temperature, especially for Direct Lake. As people load reports, the temperature of those columns is so it's kind of kept in a kind of closer cache. So you can see kind of what is actually being utilized in your model as well. So it's kind of a really cool a way to kind of look at your models. I'm going to skip past this one. So this is just another way you can get it is if you come into the details page, you can actually do it from there. You don't have to go to web modeling, right? So there's a lot of ways you can get to these notebooks. I'm just going to go through this. And again, a lot of this stuff that you're seeing, especially with like Semantic Link Labs, Michael Kowalski's been working on that, like Marco Russo and Daniel Octaker. They've been doing a lot of work with like the best practice analyzer and tablet editor and these community-based tools really helping and really driving the our product backlog to bring these tools to you kind of in a more integrated way without having to go to kind of third-party tools. But also it highlights that there was such a need to have kind of stuff like Tyndall View and DAX Query View in product because it's useful and helpful. And we saw that with the reason you guys went and built your own tools, right? So these community-based efforts really were critical to kind of driving these efforts to actually add these into the product. There's also a notebook gallery available, so you can upload your own notebooks. We want to bring more kind of stuff like this where you can kind of share things around. There's the fab snippets. There's a lot of really cool things available. I know we're running kind of hot on time, so I'm going to skip this, but this is because just when we talk about having a good experience with Copilot, especially like data agents, what can you do in the semantic model? It's pretty much everything we've been telling you to do for report authors and people. Also helpful for Copilot, right? Clear names, spell out your acronyms, give good descriptions. We're starting to utilize more and more of the semantic model. I just did a blog post this week about updates to the DAX query generation, where now we can look at inactive relationships. We can do much more things with the semantic model. And then finally, we have pipelines are able to refresh semantic models. We're going to bring that a little bit more integrated with the semantic model on the details page. You can create them here and have some templates. So that should be coming soon. And then the other one is for Direct Lake on OneLake. You can create and edit in desktop, but you actually have limited editing in the web, which means what I mean by limited is you can do relationships and measures and renaming, all the semantic model stuff, right? But we won't have the ability to kind of do a schema sync or refresh it in the web UI or bring in multiple additional sources in the web. So those are still coming in the next few months. Also, we want to bring in dynamic, so we're bringing in calculated columns for Direct Lake, dynamic calculated columns. So that's a really cool when it's coming in as well. And of course, linguistic schema support. And then, so the web modeling, obviously we're going to get the Power Query for import, which we showed, and GAing of web modeling is coming as well. Now, the other one, I know I'm at like 2 minutes. I'm sorry, Amit. But the other thing we also, why not both? Why not have direct link and import tables in the same semantic model, right? So when we talk about composite models in Power BI, what we mean is we mean tables in different storage modes working together in the same semantic model, right? So that's an import table and a direct query table, but also we're bringing in import and direct link. So why not both? So the reason why we're bringing all this stuff for import into the web, and the reason why we're putting all direct link in desktop, because eventually we want to have this experience in the UI where you can have some tables in import, some tables in direct link. So if you have your dimension table, your date table, you want it to be an import table, you can have hierarchies, and the hierarchies will work in Excel for your analyzing Excel users. You can have that. Now, this is actually already supported on a semantic model. What's still coming is the full UI support for import and direct link semantic models. But actually, as of today, this is in public preview. So you can create, so if you create a import model and a direct query model, you can move those tables into the direct query model, and the model will work in the Power BI service. So that is coming fully integrated. I have a small demo, but I'm not sure I'll have time to kind of run through it. Here
Yeah,
where
I
I've
think what I'm going to
I'm
do
sorry,
is
I'm running out of
yeah,
time. I always run out of time
yeah.
at this part.
No. So what we're going to do is I'm going to paste the links of the next two meetings, and if you can quickly wrap up. And I think what we'll do is those who have posted the question, they can still stay, and rest of the people can join the other meetings. And I think you can quickly show your demo, and then we'll only do Q&A for the people who have posted the question, and then we'll leave. Okay. Please join the other meetings. Those who I already posted the links. Okay.
Yep. So one of for the import plus direct query, the easiest way is in Tablet Editor, right? So you can have an import model in Tablet Editor, and you can have a direct link in Tablet Editor and just copy and paste the tables in. You'll have to go and make sure the credentials are good in the service, and then you actually will have both working together. The challenge now becomes you're kind of locked out of editing in desktop for now until we bring in that UI support completely. And you can also always do it in XMLA. So that's kind of it. So anyway, so I think that's good. And then we'll move on to kind of questions. So thank you, Amit.
Yeah, we have actually a lot of questions, and I did try to answer some of those on the chat window. I have somebody copied already at one place and going to ask, or should I scroll up?
Yes, Amit, we had considered all the questions.
Yeah,
Vinay,
please go
can you
through.
please
I
take
think
charge and ask the questions to Amit and Zoe so they can answer?
Okay. Okay. This is Harani from Chennai asking, I
we'll
want to
take up that
use the,
question. Yeah, we
okay,
have already taken the shortcut question. We have already taken that. Harni's question we have already taken.
and about Priyanka from Hyderabad.
Yeah, please go ahead with the question.
I observe a regular hang-up in the Power BI desktop version, even with small size data reports. Can you explain the reason and how to overcome the issue?
I think
What?
recently we have some announcement, but I have not seen any slowdown. I think one of the things which I always keep on asking that, if there are too many applications running and if your browsers have too many tabs, it could lead to, your Power BI desktop performance. The recent version, the latest version starts very fast and opens very fast. So you want to add something to that? Means the Power BI desktop working a little slow.
Yeah, so as Amit said, like, so when, especially in import models, right, you are running an enterprise grade engine in the background. So it does require a lot of your resources to run. And then if you do see any issues, kind of you like, okay, I've done this, I've worked with this model before, raise a ticket. If you're seeing something that's not quite working correctly, always create a ticket and reach out to support. I know we had, I think, a couple bugs that came in, and then we were fixing them as soon as possible. And we treat those with priority, right? So always make sure you're raising those tickets if you're seeing something that you know is out of the ordinary. But for general, make sure you're restarting your computer. Don't leave desktop open for days on end if you can avoid it. It runs a lot better if you kind of start fresh every day.
Okay. And this is Gopichan. He wanted to know about lake connection. Will it work similar to direct connection or import mode?
Yeah, I think I did reply. It's a better version of combination of import mode and direct query mode. It works on the lake basically, so it doesn't require the data as import mode, and it is not limited like your direct query mode, but it's just not going to get the data. So you want to add something to that?
So is this about direct lake mode in general?
Yeah, how it is different from import mode?
Yeah, so it actually works very similar to import mode, right? So the way it works is instead of accessing the data from our internal storage where we stored it kind of similar to the way they're stored in a Delta table, we're just accessing it from the lakehouse. So it's actually the same engine that's used for like an import table, but we're just now going to the OneLake and getting the data. It's just a scan, right? So with direct query, you have the additional transcoding. You have to take a DAX query, convert it to a SQL query, and then you're hitting that SQL database. And the SQL database is really created for ingestion, right? Doing a whole bunch of queries on a SQL database requires a database to be finely tuned and to be really ready for that behavior, which we see that a lot of slowdown. So direct query gets a really bad rap because of kind of it has to really utilize that data source in a heavy way that it wasn't designed to do, or you have to really design it to do that. It requires a lot of resources. Whereas with the analysis services engine, where we're doing Power BI, we have created that database really for this fast-paced, constant query, dynamic pace that comes with kind of BI reporting, right? So in the case of Direct Lake, it's very similar to import. It's closest to import. Direct Lake on OneLake is parity. The parity we have is towards import, but it is scanning the data from the OneLake instead of using our native storage here. So it's very similar to kind of live connection with an import table.
So from another person, I'm having data in my AWS and I'm using shortcut to bring the data to Lakehouse. My data is huge and will it change frequently? As the data is huge, will it cause slowness to my report and data changing frequently where we need to have sync between our external data to shortcut? Will it affect the billing?
I am not sure on that one, to be honest. I mean, I know that shortcut data, if like mirrored artifacts are
I think shortcut do
free
create
storage.
a caching, do going to create a little bit of caching, and caching means the query is going to happen on your sources. So the caching part is going to create a little bit of billing, but that has been optimized as much as possible. But if you have a real huge data, I think you don't need to create pipelines and bring that in. We are very good with shortcuts and everything, but I think for the real huge data, if you want to have the direct lake mode, you can import using the pipelines, and then you can also push the incremental ETL on that.
Yep. Yeah, and also the pipelines have really can and you even on Direct Lake you can tell it not to constantly get the latest data if you don't want to. If you want to be able to kind of make sure everything is in a kind of set state, like all the tables are kind of happy, you can also turn off the auto sync and then have a reframe, which is very fast refresh operation. It's part of that pipeline as well.
Okay,
hey guys, I'm
it.
requesting if you don't have open question, please join the we have actually two meetings going in parallel, and I would request you to join that. Those who have posted the question, they can stay. The other speakers are waiting. So we'll only take a couple of questions now, and we'll wrap it up here so that we are not stopping other speakers. So just a couple more questions, and then we are done.
Okay, that's it. There is no more questions.
Awesome.
Okay, I replied to a couple of questions. SAMPy is the library which Zoe has already shown that can be used for the migration from import mode to direct query mode. And I think you should go ahead and explore. There was a question around governance. I think Purview is the thing for the governance and the lineage. I think we do have really good lineage in Microsoft Power Fabric. But if you want furthermore, I think you should use Purview. And in GynaCube recently, there are a few videos which are coming in specifically on Purview, so you should watch that. I have given link of one of the videos that might not be sufficient, but there are more videos which is coming in. I do watch some of those videos very recently, and they're really detailed. And I can see the people are still coming to this meeting. Please, guys, join in the two things which are going on. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Zoe along. She came on very really short notice. We even did not publish her poster. So sorry about that. But thanks.
No.
We want to keep it surprise, and we want to keep it, engaging. And I think there's no best person than Zoe to have that such kind of engagement. So thanks a lot, Zoe, for making it possible on a Friday evening your time actually.
No
Yeah,
worries,
thank you,
Amit. Thank you
Zoe.
so much. Thank you so much for having me. And this
Thank you,
is a
Zoe, for having
fantastic
this
conference.
wonderful
So thank you
information
for
to us.
organizing it. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Zoe and Amit sir. We had a wonderful session with you guys. So we can wrap up this session. So
Yeah,
another
thank you,
sessions
guys.
will
Please do
continue.
join the other events. We had already posted the links. Please do join. We have many upcoming events. Please do join. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, 59 sessions, guys. We have a lot of contents for next 2 days. Please join that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Zoe.
Zoe.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye.
Keep watching, keep asking questions in comments, subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so that you can get notification for new videos. Thank you.